Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 43rd chapter. The pride of the height, the clear firmament, the beauty of heaven with his glorious shoe. The sun, when it appeareth. Let me actually pull this up here as well. All right. It says here, the sun, when it appeareth, declaring at his rising a marvelous instrument, the work of the Most High. Right? When you see the sun, it shows forth, in the heat of it and the light it brings, as a marvelous work, a marvelous instrument or tool of the Most High. At noon it parcheth the country, and who can abide the burning heat thereof? That's why people go inside and turn on the AC in the summer. a man blowing a furnace is in works of heat, but the sun burneth the mountains 3 times more. So you work, in a place where you're dealing with fire, you blowing air into a furnace to get the fire burning some more. You're working in heat, but the rays of the sun burn on the mountains 3 times hotter. Breathing out fiery vapors and sending forth bright flames, it dimmeth the eyes. Right? If you look up at the sun, you got to squint, right? You can't look directly at it because that's how bright it is. Great is the Lord Yahweh that made it, and at his commandment runneth hastily. All right, that's basically the ordinance, right? The sun and the moon and so on. But the sun moves at the commandment of the Lord. Hence, he was able to have it stand still during the time of Joshua. He was able to reverse it during the time of Hezekiah. He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. Yeah, the moon is for signs as well. The sun tells time more on the daily. The moon more on the, the longer periods of time, right? So like days, months, years. From the moon is a sign of feasts, a light. Because the new moon, right? Different, holy day, for example, the Passover is 2 weeks after the new moon of the first month, but that's determined based on the moon. A light that decreaseth in her perfection, right? And that shows you that the moon does, emit light, but it's going into the moon, the phases of the moon, or the moon cycle. The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, right? And that's how you also tell months, right? But it's called after her name. It says here, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. And that changing is, you have a new moon, right? Then you have the slither, and then it'll grow, and eventually it'll become a full moon, and then so on and so forth, right? That's the changing. The beauty of heaven, the glory of the stars, an ornament giving light in the highest places of the Lord. At the commandment of the Holy One, they will stand in their order and never faint in their watches. Yeah, so when the Lord, because he commanded them, right? He set them up. And you don't see the sun ever take breaks. I'm calling out today. And the stars are like, yeah, nah, I'm calling it a day, man. I'm too tired. No. All right, they never faint in their watches. Look upon the rainbow and praise him that made it. Very beautiful is it, or it is, in the brightness thereof. It compasseth the heaven about with a glorious circle, and the hands of the Most High have bended it. Right? When you look at the rainbow, you see how, beautiful it is, the colors in it, and that actual bend, that's why it's called a bow. And that's all done by the Lord. By his commandment, he maketh the snow to fall apace, and sendeth swiftly the lightnings of his judgment. Through this, the treasures are opened, and clouds fly forth as fowls. Now, scriptures liken the weather to being in the storehouse of the Lord, or his treasures, or his armory. He opens it to let out hail, snow, rain. By his great power, he maketh the clouds firm, and the hailstones are broken small. See? So the hail, and all that, the rain, hail, all that comes from the Lord. It says here, at his sight, mountains are shaken, and at his will the south wind bloweth. The noise of the thunder maketh the ear to tremble, so doth the northern storm and the whirlwind. As birds flying, he scattereth the snow, and because you see snow falling from the sky, just like birds flying in the air, and the falling down thereof is as the lighting of grasshoppers, right? Basically, when you have grasshoppers or locusts, and they go to a certain area, they fill up the whole ground, right? Just like snowflakes, it completely fills up the whole land. If you look up here, locusts on land. Let's do swarm. Swarm of locusts. Yeah. So that you see how they move in a swarm. Now, if I can get a picture of them, just all grouped up on the ground. Basically, it's like how snow falls, because snow falls everywhere, right? That's basically what it's saying. Verse 18: the eye marveleth at the beauty of the whiteness thereof, and the heart is astonished at the raining of it. Right, looking down at the snow coming down. Your eye, it says it's because literally it looks like what they call winter wonderland. How everything looks white. Sometimes it snows so much, everything looks white. And in the nighttime, it looks brighter because it's all white. The hoar-frost, or the snowflake, also as salt, he poureth on the earth, and being congealed, it lieth on top of sharp stakes. Okay, let's read that verse 19 in the GNTD. All right, it says here, he sprinkles frost over the ground like salt, and it freezes into thorny flowers of ice. Verse 20, when the cold north wind bloweth, and the water is congealed into ice, it abideth upon every gathering together of water, and clotheth the water as with a breastplate. He sends forth the cold north wind blowing, and the water hardens into ice. Every lake and pond freezes over, putting on a coat of icy armor. It devoureth the mountains, and burneth the wilderness, and consumeth the grass as fire. He scorches the wilderness hills with drought, and the grass turns brown from its heat. Verse 22, a present remedy of all is a mist coming speedily, a dew coming after heat refresheth. Reading that in the GNTD, it says, but a cloudy mist restores it all to life, as the weather cools and dew appears. By his counsel he appeaseth the deep, and planteth islands therein. By his wisdom he calmed the great oceans, and placed the islands there. That's all the Lord set that up, right? The fact that even the concept of an island, think about that, how like marvelous that is. But that was all through the wisdom of the Lord. That's how he established the foundations of the world, through his wisdom. They that sail on the sea tell the dangers thereof, or the danger thereof, and when we hear it with our ears, we marvel thereat. Right, the tales of voyages, for therein be strange and wondrous works, variety of all kinds of beasts and whales created. Right, that's in the ocean. It's a whole different world. By him the end of them hath prosperous success, and by his word all things consist. Verse 26, GNTD, it says, each of the Lord's messengers succeed at his task. Everything is held together by his word. Yeah, and also, going to those that take the voyage. I think in Wisdom of Solomon, it mentions that men commit themselves to a small, a piece of wood, in this dangerous ocean, but the Lord preserves them. By him, the end of them, Slakia, verse 27, we may speak much and yet come short. Wherefore, in some, he is all, right? So we may, go on and on and on about the glory of the Lord, and we still wouldn't do it justice. So in conclusion, he is all. That's it, right? He is. And there's no limit. There's no one description that can cover it all. How shall we be able to magnify him? For he is above all his works. The Lord is terrible. And here it is. We're in awe at his works, at the creation, which is things that came out of his mind. How much more for him? The Lord is terrible and very great, and marvelous is his power. When ye glorify the Lord, exalt him as much as ye can. For even yet will he far exceed. And when ye exalt him, put forth all your strength, and be not weary, for ye can never go far enough. See, so when you exalt the Lord, go as best as you can, and guess what? It still won't be enough. Who has seen him, and that he might tell us? And who can magnify him as he is? Nobody. There are yet hid greater things than these be, for we have seen but a few of his works. Now, of those few that we've seen, we still don't even understand it. The earth itself, right? There's still so many mysteries of the earth. You'd be surprised how everyday things that you see and think you have an understanding of today, in the kingdom you'll look at differently. Okay? Like, damn, this whole time, you walking past stones and rocks, they didn't even know they could do this. Right? It says here, for the Lord hath made all things, and to the godly hath he given wisdom. And that brings us to the end of the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 43rd chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Raka Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.